Scorpio, imagine this for a moment. Somewhere out there, your name is quietly being written onto a document that could change the entire course of your life, and you don't even know it yet. Not a scam, not a fantasy, but a very real shift that begins first in the unseen, on paper, in energy, and in the quiet decisions of someone you barely know, or perhaps don't know at all. If your heart just skipped, if something in you leaned closer instead of pulling away, that's not random curiosity, that's recognition. You didn't stumble onto this message while scrolling for noise. You were drawn here, timed here, aligned here. Legal documents are arriving soon, Scorpio. News, contracts, or formal letters that carry not just signatures and stamps, but the weight of a stranger's fortune slowly, surely turning in your direction. And more than money, this is about what that moment will confirm, that you were never as forgotten as you once felt. You've been sensing it, haven't you? That strange pressure in the air, that feeling of being on the edge of something you can't put into words. Maybe your sleep has changed. Maybe you keep seeing repeating numbers, 1111, 1010, 777. Maybe you've caught yourself imagining a phone call, an email, a letter, something official arriving that forces you to take a deep breath and say, "This can't be real, can it?" That quiet movie playing at the back of your mind is not just wishful thinking. It's your intuition rehearsing a future that is already approaching. You, out of everyone, know that not all shifts come through fireworks and drama. Sometimes they move through envelopes, sealed files, and conversations that begin with, "We need to inform you of something." The universe speaks in both dreams and documents, in candlelight and contracts, and right now those worlds are touching. Welcome, Scorpio, to this sacred moment. Here we are not just talking about horoscopes. We are reading spiritual patterns. We are not predicting lottery tickets. We are tracing the path of karmic correction, where what was once stuck begins to move, and what was once held back begins to be released. A stranger's fortune is being redirected, and for reasons that will make more sense later, you are part of that story. For some of you, this stranger may be an older soul, someone connected to your past or your bloodline, a distant relative, an old mentor, a benefactor who saw your light when you didn't see it in yourself. For others, this person may be almost invisible in your life story, someone you crossed paths with briefly, helped without thinking, or simply treated with quiet kindness at a moment when they were paying closer attention than you realized. There is a particular kind of grace that moves through people who are preparing to let go of what they've built. In their final acts of clarity, they don't always choose the loudest names, the closest hands, or the most obvious heirs. Sometimes they choose the soul that made them feel seen, settled, safe, or somehow right in a world that didn't always make sense. And that, Scorpio, might be you. Astrologically, the energy around you now is heavy with transformation and redistribution. Pluto, the ruler of deep change, hidden power, and lasting inheritance, has been moving through parts of your sky that deal with contracts, shared resources, and legacies. This doesn't mean everyone watching this is guaranteed a massive inheritance or $1 million transfer. Life and law are more complex than that. But it does mean that the themes of being recognized, compensated, restored, and entrusted with something bigger than you are strongly highlighted for your sign. Legal documents, negotiations, settlements, property agreements, wills, or financial restructurings can all become vehicles through which this energy expresses itself. The tarot mirror for this moment would look like a powerful combination of justice, the Wheel of Fortune, and the Ten of Pentacles. Justice brings balance and fairness, especially in areas where you were overlooked or undercredited. The Wheel of Fortune turns the tide, shifting you from seasons of lack or uncertainty into surprising opportunities. And the Ten of Pentacles speaks of grounded abundance, resources that don't just visit your life briefly, but build foundations, create stability, and echo into the future. You're not standing at the edge of a fantasy. You're standing at the threshold of a new chapter where life begins to treat you as valuable in tangible ways, not just spiritual ones. But before those documents or messages arrive, the universe always does something first. It prepares your inner world. You may notice that lately, you've been releasing things you once clung to tightly. Old expectations, old resentments, old stories about how things always go for you. Maybe you've been decluttering your space without knowing why. Maybe you've been feeling drawn to organize your finances, clean out a drawer, refresh a workspace, or review old accounts. That urge to clear space is not random. It's spiritual housekeeping. You're making room for something new, even if your conscious mind doesn't yet know its name. This stranger's fortune, this incoming legal development, is not just a reward for being good or patient. It's part of a larger orchestration. The universe does not hand large responsibilities or sudden abundance to someone whose heart is still anchored in old fears and scarcity mindsets. That's why so much of your recent journey has felt like pruning, stripping away, simplifying, cutting cords. The universe has been training your nervous system to feel safe with more, not shocked into panic by it. You may have been through seasons where money slipped away faster than it arrived, where support seemed to dry up, where opportunities felt like illusions. Those seasons were brutal, but they weren't pointless. They taught you what truly matters, who truly shows up, and how to live with integrity even when no one is clapping. That integrity is the frequency that calls in this shift. A stranger's fortune does not find just any address. It finds an energy field that can hold it without losing itself. You, Scorpio, have become that field. When these legal documents begin to move, whether they take the form of an official letter, an email from a law office, a revision in a contract, a notification from a financial institution, or a formal invitation to sign something important, you will feel the weight of it. There may be disbelief at first. You may reread the words several times. You may question whether you deserve it. But underneath the shock, there will be a quiet part of you that whispers, "Of course, this was always on its way. I just didn't know how it would arrive." That whisper is your soul remembering what your mind is only now discovering, that in the unseen realm, the seeds of this moment were planted long ago. Perhaps in the way you stood by someone when everyone else left. Perhaps in the way you gave when you didn't have much. Perhaps simply in the way you held on to hope when it would have been easier to become bitter. Energy remembers, life takes notes, and divine timing has a way of circling back. There is also a deeper invitation here, to see this not just as a financial or material gain, but as a spiritual initiation. You are not just receiving, you are being entrusted. The question will not only be, what do I get, but who do I become because of this? Does this gift free you to rest more deeply, to heal more fully, to care for your body the way it's been asking for? Does it allow you to build a home that feels safe, support someone who once supported you, invest in a purpose that's been sitting in your heart for years? Spiritual abundance is not measured by the size of the deposit, but by the quality of the decisions made afterward. And you, Scorpio, are being invited into a season where your choices matter more than ever. You may feel guided to keep this news private at first, sharing it only with a very small trusted circle, or with no one at all until things settle. That is wisdom, not secrecy. New blessings are like new seedlings. They need protection from harsh winds and curious hands while their roots take hold. You don't owe the details of your transformation to anyone who has not earned a front row seat in your life. Let what is unfolding have time to breathe inside your chest before you speak it into rooms that may not understand it. In the meantime, ground yourself. Drink more water than you think you need. Spend a few minutes each day in silence, letting your nervous system adjust to the idea that good things can happen to you without being snatched away. Place your hand on your heart and affirm softly, "I can be trusted with more. I can hold this with grace. These small rituals may seem simple, but they are powerful. They send a signal to your body that safety and abundance can coexist. And as this energy of transfer, recognition, and legal movement builds, you might notice more signs gathering around you. Names you haven't heard in a long time reappearing, emails or messages referencing documents, corrections or updates, dreams where you are handed keys, papers or envelopes, numbers that seem to follow you. These are not meant to make you obsessive. They're gentle nudges that you're walking through an energetic corridor where reality is softening, becoming flexible, ready to rearrange itself around a new truth. That new truth sounds something like this. I'm not meant to struggle forever. I'm not destined to always be the one who watches others receive while I carry the weight. I, too, am written into grace. This is where we pause and breathe together, because there is also a necessary clarity that must rise with this message. What you are hearing now is not a legal guarantee, not financial advice, not a promise that every single Scorpio will literally receive a stranger's fortune. Life is complex, and the way blessings move is deeply individual. What this message offers you is a mirror of potential, a spiritual story of alignment and restoration that may or may not match your literal circumstances, but can still awaken something powerful inside you. Think of this narrative as a sacred thought experiment for your soul, a symbolic map of what it looks like when unseen kindness, forgotten connections, and quiet integrity finally circle back as tangible support. If this reflection resonates with you, if it stirs your intuition and makes you feel less alone in your waiting, then take the parts that feel true and let them anchor you. If it doesn't fit your spirit right now, let it drift by like a cloud across a wide sky. Not every prophetic-style message is written for every heart at the same time. You are always invited to trust your own discernment first. The deeper invitation beneath all of this is constant, to remember the power already alive within you, the power to align with generosity, to steward resources wisely, to open to help without shame, and to become, over time, the kind of person who not only receives blessing but becomes one in other people's stories. Whether the transfer that comes to you is financial, emotional, spiritual, or all of the above, it is pointing toward the same truth. You are allowed to live a life that feels less like survival and more like stability, less like begging and more like breathing. So Scorpio, as you stand here in this in-between, between what you've survived and what is arriving, take a moment to mark this point in your timeline. In the comments, you might choose to write something like, I am ready to receive what is aligned with my highest good, or I welcome divine provision that arrives in truth and integrity. Not because typing words on a screen magically forces outcomes, but because your voice deserves to be heard by you. Your intention deserves a place in the world outside your thoughts. You are not powerless in this process. You are a co-creator walking alongside timing, law, and grace. Legal documents are arriving soon, in one form or another. A stranger's fortune, or the echo of their life's work, is turning its gaze in your direction. And whether that arrives as money, opportunity, protection, or a door opening where one was long closed, the meaning is the same. You are seen, you are remembered, and you are being positioned for a chapter where your hands are not always empty. Walk forward with quiet confidence, with grounded faith, with the knowing that what is truly written for you does not need to be chased. It will find you when you are ready, and Scorpio, you are far more ready than you realize.